You are listening to the complete audiobook style summary of You Become What You Think by Shubham Kumar Singh. Before we begin exploring deeper insights, this opening chapter lays the foundation of the entire book. The cocker, the blueprint from which every other idea grows. In this first part, imagine yourself settling into a quiet space, breathing slowly, and preparing your mind for a journey inward. Because this book is not just philosophy, not just motivation. It's a reminder of the astonishing power hidden inside your thoughts. Chapter 1 begins with a quiet awakening inside the listener's mind, a gentle invitation to recognize the extraordinary truth that every experience, every achievement, every struggle, and every breakthrough begins first as a single thought, like a spark forming in the darkness before becoming a flame that shapes the world around you. In this foundational chapter, you are urged to pause and reflect on the unseen force that guides your daily life. Your thinking, because the thoughts you nurture are not mere passing impressions, but the very seeds from which your future grows. Imagine your mind as a vast landscape, a fertile field where each thought is planted, watered, and eventually harvested in the form of your actions, your habits, your personality, and ultimately your destiny. This chapter teaches that nothing in your life is isolated. Your thoughts influence your emotions influence your decisions, and your decisions shape your life path. The author emphasizes that most people drift through life as passive thinkers, unaware that their minds are constantly shaping their circumstances, crafting their attitudes, and influencing their behaviors without their conscious permission. But the moment you realize this truth, entire reality begins to change. When you become aware of the quality of your thoughts, whether they empower you or weaken you, you begin to reclaim control over your inner world. This chapter explains that thoughts are like silent architects. They work tirelessly in the background, constructing invisible frameworks that determine how you interpret situations, how you respond to challenges, and how you see yourself. Your mind is full of doubt, you will hesitate. If your mind is full of fear, you will retreat. But if your mind is filled with clarity, courage, and belief, your life will start to expand in ways you never imagined. The chapter encourages you to observe your inner dialogue without judgment, to understand that awareness is the first step toward transformation, because you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. The author highlights the power of repetition. How a single thought, when repeated often enough, becomes a belief that feels like truth, even if it has no real foundation. Many of your limitations exist only because you accepted them unconsciously long ago. As you listen to this chapter, you are invited to challenge these old beliefs, to question the narratives you have inherited from your past, and to choose thoughts that align with the person you want to become rather than the person you used to be. This opening chapter concludes by reminding you that mastery begins within. The world outside is a reflection of the world inside. If you want to change your life, you must first change the way you think. This is not just philosophy, it is practical reality. Your thoughts shape your focus shapes your actions shape your habits, and your habits shape your destiny. And from this moment forward, every thought you choose becomes a step toward transforming your life from the inside out. Chapter 2 continues the journey by guiding you deeper into the inner workings of your mind, revealing how every belief you hold, whether empowering or limiting, begins as nothing more than a repeated thought that eventually takes root and becomes part of your identity, shaping how you see the world and how you see yourself. In this chapter, You are asked to slow down and examine the invisible structures that influence your daily behaviors, to understand that many of the beliefs guiding your choices were not created consciously, but adopted over time through experiences, conversations, failures, and expectations that you may not even remember, yet they continue to influence your reactions, your confidence, and your ambitions. As the chapter unfolds, you are encouraged to imagine beliefs as filters through which you interpret everything around you. If you believe you are capable, challenges become opportunities. If you believe you are not enough, those same challenges become proof of your fears. The author explains that the beliefs you hold are not facts. They are stories that your mind has accepted as truth. And because of this, they can be reshaped, rewritten, or replaced with narratives that support your growth. This chapter emphasizes that your mind does not care whether a thought is helpful or harmful. It simply accepts what you feed it consistently, turning repeated thoughts into mental grooves that become difficult to change unless you consciously intervene. You are reminded that beliefs are powerful because they influence your behavior without asking for your permission. If you believe success is impossible, you will not try. If you believe you are unworthy, you will reject opportunities. If you believe others are better than you, you will remain silent even when your voice matters. This chapter teaches you to become an observer of your internal belief system, to identify the limiting beliefs that have been quietly shaping your life, and to challenge them with new thoughts rooted in clarity and truth. You are invited to recognize that many beliefs you hold today were formed in moments of frustration, fear, or misunderstanding. They do not deserve the power they have gained over your life. The author encourages you to question these beliefs, gently but firmly. This belief helping me grow? Did I choose it, or did it choose me? Is it based on truth or on old wounds? By asking these questions, begin to loosen the grip of long-held limitations and open yourself to new possibilities. This chapter explains that changing a belief is not an overnight transformation. It is a gradual process of feeding your mind new thoughts, new perspectives, and new truths until they become the dominant force guiding your actions. As the chapter comes to its close, you are reminded that your beliefs are not fixed. They are flexible, movable, shapeable. You have the power to rewrite them, and by doing so, you rewrite your future. The chapter leaves you with a quiet but profound message. The beliefs you choose to hold today will shape the life you experience tomorrow. Choose them wisely, because you always become what you think, and what you think becomes what you believe. Chapter 3 expands the journey by drawing your attention to the extraordinary power of focus. Attention, showing you that while your mind is capable of generating countless thoughts every minute, the ones you choose to concentrate on become the driving forces that shape your life's direction, your emotional state, and your sense of purpose. This chapter, you are asked to imagine focus as a lens. When scattered, it allows you to see everything but accomplish little. Yet when concentrated, it amplifies your clarity, sharpens your intentions, and gives your actions incredible strength and effectiveness. The author explains that most people live in a constant state of mental distraction, jumping from worry to desire, from fear to memory, from task to task, realizing that this scattered focus drains their energy and prevents them from making real progress toward the life they want. You are reminded that focus is not just about paying attention. It is about choosing what deserves your attention and what does not, because everything you focus on grows, whether positive or negative. This chapter invites you to reflect on the thoughts that occupy most of your day. Are they aligned with your goals, or are they pulling you away from them? Do you focus more on possibilities or on problems? Do you spend your mental energy imagining what could go right, or obsessing over what could go wrong? Your full attention. The audiobook narrator encourages you to become aware of how easily your mind drifts into patterns of worry or distraction, how much time you lose by focusing on things that do not nourish your growth. The author emphasizes that the secret to mastering your mind is not eliminating thoughts, but learning to redirect them toward what truly matters. You are taught that focus is as a skill, one that can be strengthened through practice, discipline, and intentionality. By consciously choosing what to give your mental energy to, you begin to reclaim control of your inner world, creating space for clarity, creativity, progress. This chapter reveals that when your focus is aligned with your purpose, even small actions become powerful. Every step you take moves you closer to your vision. You are encouraged to practice focusing on one task at a time, one intention at a time, one dream at a time, instead of dividing your energy across too many directions. The author explains that multitasking is a myth that weakens the mind. Progress comes from single, pointed focus, the ability to stay committed to what matters despite distractions, doubts, or difficulties. As the chapter deepens, you are reminded that the world around you is full of noise, designed to steal your attention. Your focus, when consciously directed, can cut through that noise like a beam of light, guiding you toward your goals with unwavering determination. This chapter concludes with a powerful realization: your mind becomes whatever you repeatedly focus on. If you focus on growth, you will grow. Focus on fear, you will shrink. If you focus on your future will begin to shape itself around your thoughts. And so, the narrator leaves you with a simple but transformative truth: guard your focus, choose it wisely, and let it guide you toward the life you are meant to build. Chapter 4 continues the exploration of the mind by revealing the deep and inseparable connection between your thoughts and your emotions, showing you that every feeling you experience, whether joy, fear, anxiety, confidence, anger, or peace, begins as a quiet thought that sends ripples through your inner world, shaping how you interpret situations and how you react to them. This chapter, you are invited to imagine your thoughts as sparks and your emotions as the flames they ignite, reminding you that while flames can grow wild and overwhelming, they are always born from something small and controllable. The author explains that most people assume emotions come from external events, yet the real source lies within their thinking. Two people can experience the same moment, but feel entirely different things because their thoughts attach different meanings to the event. You are encouraged to pause and reflect on how often you have allowed a single negative thought to spiral into frustration or anxiety, or how a single encouraging thought has lifted your mood and filled you with renewed energy. This chapter teaches that emotional mastery begins with mental awareness. When you can observe your thoughts without immediately reacting to them, you gain the power to choose how you feel rather than being controlled by your feelings. The narrator reminds you that emotions are messengers, not enemies. Your full attention, they reveal the nature of your inner narrative, highlighting where your thinking supports you and where it holds you back. You are guided to recognize your recurring emotional patterns and trace them back to the thoughts that trigger them, understanding that anger often comes from thoughts of being treated unfairly, sadness from thoughts of loss, joy from thoughts of gratitude, anxiety from thoughts of uncertainty or fear. The author emphasizes that although emotions can feel overwhelming, they are not permanent. They flow, shift, and transform the moment you shift your thoughts. This chapter encourages you to practice interrupting negative emotional spirals by gently replacing harmful thoughts with empowering interpretations, not through forced positivity, but through conscious, balanced thinking that reflects truth and possibility. You are taught that emotional balance does not mean avoiding difficult feelings, but learning to respond to them with wisdom and patience, understanding that every emotion you experience is a reflection of your internal dialogue. The chapter also highlights the importance of self-compassion, being kind to yourself during emotional storms, because harsh self-criticism fuels negative thoughts, which in turn intensify your emotional struggles. Instead, you are invited to adopt thoughts that calm your mind, steady your feelings, and bring you back into alignment with your values. As the chapter moves toward its conclusion, the narrator explains that mastering your emotions is not about suppressing them or pretending everything is fine. It is about understanding the origin of your feelings and taking responsibility for the thoughts that create them. When you learn to guide your thinking, your emotions begin to support your growth rather than limit it. And so this chapter leaves you with a powerful truth. Your emotions do not define you. They follow you, respond to you, and reflect you. And when you learn to master your thoughts, you naturally learn to master the emotional world within you, creating a life filled with greater clarity, stability, and inner peace. Chapter 5 continues the journey by revealing the powerful connection between your thoughts and the habits that quietly shape your life, showing you that every routine you follow, whether it strengthens you or weakens you, began as a single thought that you repeated until it became automatic, like a pathway carved into the landscape of your mind. In this chapter, you are asked to imagine your habits as the invisible architects of your destiny, building your future step by step through the small, seemingly insignificant actions you repeat every day, because, while major decisions may set the direction of your life, it is your habits that determine whether you reach your destination. The author explains that habits are not created overnight. They are formed through repetition, triggered by consistent thoughts, strengthened by emotional rewards. For example, a thought such as, "I'll do it later," becomes a habit of procrastination when repeated often enough, while a thought like, "I can improve little by little," becomes a habit of discipline and progress. You are encouraged to notice how often your day unfolds on autopilot, driven not by conscious intention, but by old patterns your mind has learned to follow. This chapter teaches you that if you want to change your habits, you must start by changing the thoughts that drive them. Your mind always seeks what feels familiar, even if it is unhealthy or unhelpful. The narrator invites you to examine the routines that shape your morning, your work, your relationships, and your personal growth, asking you to identify which habits pull you forward and which hold you back. You are reminded that breaking a bad habit is not about willpower alone. It is about replacing the thought that supports it with a new thought that guides you toward a different action. When you shift the internal command, the external pattern begins to shift as well. The author gives insight into how habits create momentum. Good habits generate positive momentum that makes progress easier over time, while negative habits create downward momentum that becomes harder to escape the longer you allow it to continue. This chapter emphasizes the importance of small improvements, showing you that a simple change in daily thinking, such as choosing discipline over comfort or intention over impulse, can lead to a profound transformation when consistently practiced. You are encouraged to celebrate small victories, to acknowledge your efforts, and to reinforce thoughts that uplift your growth, because habits grow stronger when supported by positive self-talk and a clear sense of purpose. The chapter also explores the idea that your environment influences your habits, and your habits shape your environment in return. By surrounding yourself with people, spaces, and routines that reflect who you want to become, make it easier for your mind to think in ways that support better habits. As the chapter flows toward its conclusion, the narrator reminds you that you are not defined by your old habits. You are defined by your willingness to create new ones. You are urged to become the conscious designer of your everyday actions, understanding that the life you dream of will not be built through occasional effort, but through consistent, intentional habits powered by thoughts that align with your highest potential. And as this chapter closes, you are left with the empowering realization that if you master your thoughts, you master your habits, and if you master your habits, you master the trajectory of your entire life. Chapter 6 continues the journey by guiding you into the profound world of resilience, showing you that your ability to rise, recover, and rebuild after setbacks is not determined by your strength or your circumstances, but by the thoughts you choose in the moments when life feels heavy, uncertain, or overwhelming. In this chapter, you are invited to imagine resilience not as a force you are born with, but as a mindset you cultivate, a mental muscle that grows stronger every time you choose hope over despair, learning over defeat, and courage over fear. The author explains that resilient people are not those who avoid difficulties. They are those who think differently during difficulties, interpreting challenges not as signs of failure, but as stepping stones that shape their character and sharpen their wisdom. You are encouraged to recall moments in your own life when you felt broken, discouraged, or lost, and to recognize that even in those moments, you eventually found a way forward, proving that resilience already exists within you, waiting to be strengthened by conscious thought. This chapter teaches that your first thought during a setback determines your emotional response. The emotional response determines the actions you take next. If your first thought is, "I can't handle this," your energy collapses. But if your first thought is, "I will get through this," your mind begins to search for solutions and possibilities. The narrator emphasizes that resilience is built when you train your mind to reframe difficulties, seeing them not as punishments, as invitations to grow. You are reminded that every great achievement in history was forged through struggle, and that your own challenges are shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were before. This chapter also reveals that setbacks often expose limiting beliefs, your full attention giving you the opportunity to replace them with thoughts that support your growth rather than your fear. You are invited to examine your inner dialogue during difficult moments, noticing whether your thoughts help you rise or push you deeper into frustration, because the story you tell yourself about a challenge is what determines whether you break or break through. The author encourages you to embrace difficulties with an open mind, understanding that resilience is not about pretending everything is fine, about trusting that everything can be transformed. You learn that each obstacle carries a hidden lesson, your full attention, and that resilient thinkers focus not on the weight of the challenge, but on the strength they can gain from facing it. The chapter reminds you that resilience grows through consistency. Each time you choose persistence, Each time you choose to keep moving, each time you choose to rise one more time than you fall, your inner strength expands. You are encouraged to be patient with yourself, to recognize that healing, growth, and recovery unfold gradually, and that setbacks do not define you, they refine you. As the chapter reaches its final moments, the narrator leaves you with a powerful truth: resilience is a mindset built through conscious thought, and every time you choose to think with courage, clarity, and hope, you transform your challenges into opportunities. And so, Chapter 6 concludes by reminding you that resilience is not found outside. It is born within your thoughts, nurtured by your perspective, and strengthened by your willingness to rise again and again, no matter how many times life tries to push you down. Chapter 7 invites you to explore the profound influence of the people around you, revealing that your thoughts, beliefs, and even your ambitions are deeply shaped by the environments and individuals you spend the most time with, often without your awareness, because human beings naturally absorb the energy, attitudes, and mindset of those in their inner circle. In this chapter, you are asked to imagine your mind as a garden, the people around you as the gardeners who either nourish your growth with encouragement and wisdom, or weaken it through negativity, doubt, and fear. The author explains that thoughts are contagious, and the mindset of those around you quietly enters your own thinking, influencing how you see yourself and what you believe is possible for your life. You are encouraged to reflect on how certain people make you feel energized, inspired, and hopeful, while others drain your motivation, amplify your fears, or reinforce your self-doubt. This chapter teaches that your environment is not just physical, it is mental and emotional, shaped by conversations, expectations, habits, and the unspoken beliefs shared among the people you surround yourself with. The narrator invites you to examine your circle honestly, give them your full attention, asking yourself whether the people closest to you are pushing you forward or pulling you back, celebrating your growth or criticizing your dreams, expanding your thinking or limiting your vision. You are reminded that it is impossible to think big while surrounding yourself with people who think small, and that your goals cannot grow in a space where negativity is constantly watering your fears. The author emphasizes that protecting your mind is an essential act of self-respect. This begins with choosing your companions wisely, seeking out those who challenge you to improve, who push you toward your potential, who inspire you by the way they live their own lives. But this chapter does not encourage you to cut people off harshly. Instead, it encourages awareness, boundaries, and balance. You are taught that you can continue caring for others while deciding how much access they have to your inner world, and you can choose to limit the emotional influence of those who consistently bring negativity into your life. The narrator reminds you that you must also examine your own role in your environment, your full attention asking yourself whether you contribute positivity or negativity to the lives around you, because personal growth requires not only choosing better influences, but also becoming a better influence for others. This chapter reveals that your relationships act as mirrors, reflecting who you are becoming, and your environment acts as a silent teacher, shaping your thoughts through daily exposure. You learn that finding a strong, supportive circle is not about luck. It is about intention, about seeking out mentors, friends, and communities that align with the person you want to become. As the chapter moves toward its conclusion, you are encouraged to build an environment that supports your dreams, read books that expand your thinking, listen to voices that inspire strength, Spend time with people who share your values and distance yourself from those who diminish your spirit. The narrator ends with a powerful realization. You cannot rise while surrounded by those who prefer to stay low, and you cannot dream boldly while surrounded by those who fear dreaming at all. And so, Chapter 7 concludes by reminding you that the environment you choose is one of the most powerful forces shaping your thoughts. Since you become what you think, you must protect your mind as carefully as you protect your future, knowing that the people you allow into your life help shape the person you ultimately become. Chapter 8 takes you on a journey into the extraordinary power of imagination, showing you that the mind's ability to envision possibilities is not just a form of escape or fantasy, but one of the most practical and potent tools for shaping your reality, because everything that exists in the world today, from groundbreaking inventions to transformative ideas, was first imagined by someone who dared to see beyond the present and believe in what could be. In this chapter, you are invited to see your imagination as a mental workshop, a creative space where thoughts are shaped into visions, where the seeds of dreams are planted, and where the future begins to take form before it manifests in the physical world. The author emphasizes that imagination is a skill that can be nurtured and directed intentionally, rather than allowed to wander aimlessly into worry, doubt, or fear, and that the quality of your imagination determines the quality of your life, because your thoughts are the architects of your actions. Actions build your destiny. You are encouraged to reflect on how often your mind dwells on worst-case scenarios, replaying mistakes, or fearing what might go wrong, and to realize that this type of imagination, while natural, limits your potential and keeps you trapped in cycles of anxiety and inaction. Instead, Chapter 8 teaches you to harness the mind's creative power to envision solutions, opportunities, and the person you want to become, allowing your imagination to inspire confidence, innovation, and purposeful action. The narrator guides you to practice consciously imagining positive outcomes, exploring possibilities in detail, and emotionally connecting with those visions as if they are already unfolding. The mind responds to vivid mental experiences by seeking ways to bring them into reality. The chapter also emphasizes that imagination is not about ignoring challenges or denying reality, but about expanding your perspective so that you can see beyond obstacles and design pathways that others may not yet recognize. You are reminded that great leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and inventors all succeeded because they imagined what did not yet exist and persisted until their vision became tangible. The same power exists within you, waiting for conscious direction. This chapter encourages exercises of visualization, scenario planning, and daydreaming with purpose, allowing your mind to rehearse success, anticipate solutions, and prepare you emotionally and mentally for real-life execution. Our urge to treat your imagination as a rehearsal space where you can practice courage, creativity, and problem-solving without risk, strengthening your confidence and readiness to act in the real world. The narrator highlights that your imagination influences not only what you create externally but also how you perceive yourself internally. When you imagine yourself as capable, resilient, and empowered, your thoughts align with these qualities, and your actions begin to reflect them naturally. As Chapter 8 comes to its conclusion, you are left with a profound insight. The mind that learns to imagine intentionally shapes a life of possibilities, transforms dreams into reality, and moves purposefully toward goals that might have once seemed impossible. And since you become what you think, cultivating a rich, directed imagination is not a luxury, It is essential. And so, Chapter 8 reminds you that by consciously imagining what you want to achieve, you plant the seeds of your future and give your thoughts the power to build a life filled with growth, purpose, and limitless potential. Chapter 9 begins by directing your attention to the powerful and often overlooked influence of self-talk, the ongoing conversation you have with yourself every moment of the day, which shapes your beliefs, emotions, and actions more profoundly than external circumstances ever could. In this chapter, you are invited to observe the words you use internally, realizing that they are not harmless whispers but instructions your mind takes seriously, influencing how you perceive challenges, how you respond to setbacks, and how you pursue opportunities. The author explains that most people are their own harshest critics, speaking to themselves in ways they would never dare to speak to a friend or loved one, repeating negative phrases that chip away at confidence, self-worth, and motivation, often without even realizing it. You are encouraged to become aware of the patterns of self-talk that dominate your mind, whether they are thoughts of doubt, fear, frustration, or limitation, or whether they support courage, clarity, and determination. This chapter emphasizes that the quality of your inner dialogue determines the quality of your life, because your thoughts influence your emotions guide your behavior. Negative self-talk creates barriers, while empowering self-talk creates bridges toward growth. You are taught that changing your life begins with consciously choosing the words and thoughts you allow into your inner conversation, replacing criticism with encouragement, fear with clarity, and hesitation with confidence. Narrator guides you to examine common phrases you repeat mentally. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. This is too hard. And to recognize their impact, understanding that every repeated thought strengthens neural pathways that make those beliefs feel true, even if they are entirely false or outdated. This chapter encourages practical strategies to transform self-talk, such as consciously affirming your strengths, speaking to yourself as a mentor would, and challenging thoughts that limit your potential by asking, is this really true, or am I just accepting an old story? You are reminded that self-talk is a reflection of the mindset you cultivate daily, and by consciously guiding it, you reshape not only how you feel internally, but also how you act externally, influencing your decisions, your relationships, your ability to pursue meaningful goals. The author highlights that self-talk works in tandem with visualization and focus, amplifying the power of your imagination when aligned with positive and empowering language. As the chapter progresses, you are encouraged to practice consistency, reinforcing positive thoughts until they become automatic, gradually replacing the mental scripts that have held you back for years. The narrator explains that this process requires patience and vigilance, as old patterns will try to resurface, but with persistent effort, your inner voice can become your strongest ally rather than your greatest obstacle. As Chapter 9 concludes, you are left with a transformative truth. The way you speak to yourself matters more than almost anything else, because your inner dialogue forms the foundation of your beliefs, actions, and ultimately your destiny. And when you consciously choose empowering self-talk, you not only reshape your mind but also create the conditions for a life of confidence, resilience, and purposeful achievement. Chapter 9 begins by directing your attention to the powerful and often overlooked influence of self-talk, the ongoing conversation you have with yourself every moment of the day, which shapes your beliefs, emotions, and actions more profoundly than external circumstances ever could. In this chapter, you are invited to observe the words you use internally, realizing that they are not harmless whispers but instructions your mind takes seriously, influencing how you perceive challenges, you respond to setbacks, and how you pursue opportunities. The author explains that most people are their own harshest critics, speaking to themselves in ways they would never dare to speak to a friend or loved one, repeating negative phrases that chip away at confidence, self-worth, and motivation, often without even realizing it. You are encouraged to become aware of the patterns of self-talk that dominate your mind. They are thoughts of doubt, fear, frustration, or limitation, or whether they support courage, clarity, and determination. This chapter emphasizes that the quality of your inner dialogue determines the quality of your life, because your thoughts influence your emotions, and your emotions guide your behavior. Negative self-talk creates barriers, while empowering self-talk creates bridges toward growth. Your full attention. You are taught that changing your life begins with consciously choosing the words and thoughts you allow into your inner conversation, replacing criticism with encouragement, fear with clarity, and hesitation with confidence. The narrator guides you to examine common phrases you repeat mentally. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. This is too hard. And to recognize their impact, understanding that every repeated thought strengthens neural pathways that make those beliefs feel true, even if they are entirely false or outdated. This chapter encourages practical strategies to transform self-talk, such as consciously affirming your strengths, speaking to yourself as a mentor would, and challenging thoughts that limit your potential by asking, is this really true? Or am I just accepting an old story? You are reminded that self-talk is a reflection of the mindset you cultivate daily, and by consciously guiding it, you reshape not only how you feel internally, but also how you act externally, influencing your decisions, your relationships, and your ability to pursue meaningful goals. The author highlights that self-talk works in tandem with visualization and focus, amplifying the power of your imagination when aligned with positive and empowering language. As the chapter progresses, you are encouraged to practice consistency, reinforcing positive thoughts until they become automatic, gradually replacing the mental scripts that have held you back for years. The narrator explains that this process requires patience and vigilance, as old patterns will try to resurface, but with persistent effort, your inner voice can become your strongest ally rather than your greatest obstacle. As Chapter 9 concludes, you are left with a transformative truth: the way you speak to yourself matters more than almost anything else, because your inner dialogue forms the foundation of your beliefs, actions, and ultimately your destiny. And when you consciously choose empowering self-talk, you not only reshape your mind but also create the conditions for a life of confidence, resilience, purposeful achievement. Chapter 10 delves deeply into the transformative power of purpose, revealing that your thoughts gain clarity, direction, and energy when they are guided by a clear sense of why you do what you do. Because without purpose, even the most powerful mind drifts aimlessly, expending energy on distractions, doubts, and tasks that do not contribute to your growth or fulfillment. In this chapter, you are invited to reflect on the life you truly want to create. Not the life shaped by others' expectations, convenience, or societal norms, but the life that resonates with your deepest values, passions, and aspirations. The author explains that purpose acts like a compass for the mind, aligning your thoughts, decisions, and actions toward a singular, meaningful direction, and providing resilience and motivation when challenges arise. Because when your mind knows why it is striving, obstacles feel temporary and surmountable rather than overwhelming. You are encouraged to examine areas of your life where you may be drifting, performing tasks, or making decisions without connection to a higher goal. Your full attention, and to ask yourself whether your daily thoughts and actions are aligned with what truly matters to you. This chapter teaches that purpose is not something abstract or distant. It is the lens through which your mind interprets every experience, transforming ordinary moments into opportunities for growth, learning, and contribution. The narrator emphasizes that a life guided by purpose is fueled by intentional thought. Each morning, when you set your mind on meaningful priorities, your mental energy becomes focused, your emotions become engaged, and your actions gain momentum, creating a cycle of productivity and fulfillment. Chapter 10 also highlights that clarity of purpose reduces wasted mental energy, prevents distractions from derailing your progress, and strengthens your resilience, because when you know what you are moving toward, temporary setbacks or criticism do not shake your confidence. You are encouraged to visualize your purpose in detail, to feel the emotional significance of your goals as if they are already unfolding, to allow this vision to shape your daily thinking, guiding decisions large and small. Author points out that purpose-driven thoughts influence not only your personal growth, but also your interactions with others, inspiring leadership, empathy, and collaboration. Because when your mind operates from a place of meaning, your presence and actions naturally create positive ripple effects in your environment. This chapter also reminds you that discovering purpose is an ongoing process, requiring reflection, self-awareness, and experimentation, that your purpose may evolve as you grow, learn, and face new experiences. The narrator encourages you to embrace this evolution, continually aligning your thoughts with your emerging understanding of what matters most, ensuring that your mind is always moving toward clarity and fulfillment. As Chapter 10 comes to its conclusion, you are left with a powerful realization. Purpose transforms ordinary thoughts into intentional actions, ordinary actions into meaningful habits, and ordinary days into steps toward a life of significance. And since you become what you think, anchoring your thoughts in purpose is the key to creating a life that is not only successful, but deeply fulfilling, resilient, and aligned with your highest potential. Chapter 11 explores the vital role of discipline in transforming your thoughts into tangible results, showing that while dreams and intentions are essential, it is disciplined action that turns possibility into reality, because without consistent effort, the most brilliant ideas remain unrealized, and the mind's power cannot manifest externally unless it is backed by persistence and structured behavior. This chapter, you are encouraged to understand discipline not as punishment, restriction, or rigidity, but as the alignment of your thoughts, actions, and priorities toward the person you aspire to become, creating a bridge between vision and achievement. The author explains that discipline begins in the mind. When you think like the person you want to be, act like them, and make decisions consistent with your goals, the external effort required becomes natural, less burdensome, and more effective, because your internal world is already aligned with your desired outcome. You are invited to examine the areas of your life where inconsistency, procrastination, or distraction has limited your progress, and to recognize that these patterns are not failures of talent or intelligence, but of mental focus and repeated commitment. This chapter teaches that discipline is cultivated through small, deliberate choices repeated over time, showing up every day, prioritizing what matters most, resisting impulses that lead to distraction, and consistently investing your energy where it will yield the greatest results. The narrator emphasizes that discipline amplifies the power of your thoughts, because each disciplined action reinforces the belief in your capability, strengthens habits, builds momentum that carries you forward even when motivation wanes. Chapter 11 also highlights the importance of structure, planning, and intentionality, explaining that a disciplined mind does not act randomly but chooses the steps that will lead to consistent progress, breaking down large goals into manageable tasks and approaching them with persistence and patience. You are encouraged to see setbacks not as failures, but as signals to refocus, adjust strategies, and strengthen resolve, because discipline is about consistency over time, not perfection in every moment. The author reminds you that self-discipline is both empowering and liberating. It frees you from the chaos of reactive thinking, impulsive behaviors, and wasted energy, allowing you to channel your mental and physical resources toward meaningful objectives. The narrator also explains that discipline interacts with other principles explored in the book: focus, purpose, self-talk, habits, resilience, and acts as the mechanism that transforms all these mental strengths into concrete outcomes, ensuring that your intentions translate into results. As Chapter 11 draws to a close, you are left with a profound insight. The thoughts you cultivate in your mind are only as powerful as the actions they inspire, and discipline is the bridge that makes your mental strength actionable, sustainable, and unstoppable. By choosing disciplined thought, speech, and behavior every day, you align your inner world with your outer reality, creating the conditions for growth, mastery, and long-term success, ensuring that the life you imagine, plan, and think about becomes the life you actually live. Chapter 12 explores the transformative power of gratitude, revealing that the thoughts you choose to focus on not only shape your actions and emotions, but also influence the energy and quality of your entire life, because gratitude trains the mind to see abundance rather than lack, possibility rather than limitation, and strength rather than weakness. In this chapter, you are invited to reflect on how often your mind dwells on what is missing, what is unfair, or what has gone wrong. Realize that this habitual focus creates a mental environment of scarcity, frustration, and dissatisfaction, which then colors your perceptions, decisions, and interactions. The author explains that gratitude is not about ignoring challenges or pretending life is perfect, about consciously directing your thoughts to acknowledge the gifts, lessons, and opportunities that exist even in the midst of difficulty, because recognizing what is good in your life strengthens your mental resilience, enhances your emotional stability, amplifies your motivation to grow and improve. You are encouraged to develop a daily practice of gratitude, not as a superficial ritual, as a deliberate way to rewire your mind, noticing both the small and significant blessings that surround you, whether in your relationships, experiences, skills, or personal achievements, and letting these observations influence how you think and feel throughout the day. This chapter teaches that gratitude shifts the mind from a reactive state to a proactive state, creating space for creativity, problem solving, and thoughtful action, because a mind filled with appreciation is less likely to be consumed by fear, worry, or negativity, more likely to pursue opportunities with clarity and confidence. The narrator emphasizes that the practice of gratitude strengthens the connection between thought and emotion, demonstrating that what you focus on expands. When you dwell on abundance, your mind notices more abundance. When you focus on lack, your mind becomes fixated on scarcity. Author 12 also explains that gratitude enhances your relationships, because expressing appreciation and recognition to others not only strengthens your social bonds, but also reinforces positive thought patterns within yourself, creating a feedback loop of encouragement and optimism. You are invited to use gratitude as a lens through which to view challenges, reframing obstacles as lessons and experiences that contribute to your growth, and allowing this perspective to shape your internal dialogue, emotional responses, and external behaviors. The author reminds you that consistent practice is key, and that the benefits of gratitude compound over time, gradually transforming your mindset, your emotional resilience, and your overall quality of life. As the chapter draws to a close, you are encouraged to recognize that gratitude is not a passive feeling, but an active choice, a deliberate orientation of thought that strengthens your mind, nurtures your emotions, and empowers your actions. And by consciously choosing to cultivate gratitude in every moment, you align your thoughts with positivity, abundance, and growth. And so, Author 12 concludes with the profound truth that gratitude is one of the most practical and powerful ways to shape your life, because the thoughts you choose to dwell on determine the person you become, the experiences you attract, and the depth of fulfillment you are able to enjoy, making gratitude an essential practice for anyone seeking a purposeful, joyful, and successful life. Author 13 dives deeply into the transformative power of intention, revealing that the clarity, direction, and energy of your thoughts are magnified when they are guided by a conscious and purposeful why, because without intention, even focused thoughts can drift, become inconsistent, or fail to manifest into meaningful action, whereas thoughts aligned with intention gain momentum, precision, and the power to shape your reality in significant ways. In this chapter, your full attention, you are encouraged to reflect on the distinction between merely wanting something and consciously intending it, recognizing that intention is not wishful thinking, but a deliberate mental decision to align your desires, beliefs, and actions toward a clearly defined outcome. The author explains that intention acts as a mental blueprint, giving structure and purpose to your thoughts, in turn influences your focus, habits, decisions, and emotional responses, because a thought without intention is like a ship without a rudder, directionless, vulnerable to external currents, and unlikely to reach its desired destination. You are invited to examine the areas of your life where you may be drifting aimlessly, reacting to circumstances rather than proactively shaping them, and to ask yourself whether your daily thoughts, conversations, and decisions are intentionally aligned with the person you aspire to become. This chapter emphasizes that living with intention is a skill that can be cultivated, strengthened, and refined over time by practicing conscious thought, reflection, and planning, because the mind responds to deliberate mental direction, shaping actions that are consistent, purposeful, and aligned with your higher goals. The narrator guides you to visualize your goals in detail, to consider not only what you want to achieve, but why it matters to you, and to allow this deeper understanding to anchor your thoughts, ensuring that each decision, each action, and each moment of focus contributes to a larger vision. Chapter 13 also highlights the connection between intention and emotional energy, explaining that when your mind is clear about what it wants and why, emotions naturally align, creating motivation, perseverance, and resilience, even in the face of setbacks or challenges, because the emotional energy generated by intention reinforces your commitment and strengthens your mental clarity. You are reminded that intention is not static. It evolves as you grow, learn, and refine your understanding of yourself and your purpose. And that maintaining awareness of your intentions keeps your thoughts, actions, and habits aligned with the life you are working to create. The author encourages you to write down your intentions, revisit them regularly, and allow them to guide your daily thinking. Intentional thoughts generate intentional actions, and intentional actions produce intentional results. As Chapter 13 comes to a close, you are left with a powerful realization: a life lived without intention is easily swayed by circumstance, distraction, and doubt, whereas a life guided by deliberate, purposeful thought moves with clarity, focus, and momentum toward meaningful goals. And since you become what you think, consciously setting intention for your thoughts is one of the most effective ways to shape your destiny, create fulfillment, ensure that your mental energy consistently works for you rather than against you. Chapter 14 explores the profound process of transformation, showing you that the changes you desire in your life begin first in your thoughts, because every external shift, from habits to relationships, from actions to achievements, originates in the mental patterns you cultivate. And the moment your thinking changes, everything else begins to follow naturally. In this chapter, you are invited to recognize that personal growth is a gradual, continuous process rather than an instant event, and that each thought, decision, and repeated action contributes to the person you are becoming, slowly reshaping your character, habits, and ultimately your life. The author explains that transformation requires awareness, intention, and patience, because old patterns of thinking and behavior, no matter how limiting, have been reinforced over time, and replacing them with empowering patterns takes consistent focus and effort, yet the results, once achieved, are permanent and self-reinforcing. You are encouraged to observe your daily thoughts carefully, identifying which ones support growth and which ones maintain stagnation or fear, because these thought patterns form the blueprint for your actions and shape the outcomes you experience, whether in small daily routines or major life decisions. This chapter emphasizes that transformation is not about forcing change or striving for perfection, but about gradually aligning your thoughts with the person you want to become, so that your mental energy consistently guides your choices, habits, and responses in a productive and positive direction. The narrator guides you to understand that thoughts influence emotions, emotions drive actions, actions create habits, and habits define character. Therefore, by changing your thoughts, you initiate a chain reaction that slowly transforms every aspect of your life, building resilience, confidence, and clarity along the way. Chapter 14 also highlights the importance of self-reflection and conscious practice, showing that transformation requires not only intention but also observation, paying attention to what triggers limiting thoughts, which patterns repeat, and where growth is needed, so that each insight can be used as a stepping stone for further development. You are reminded that setbacks and challenges are natural parts of the transformation process, acting as mirrors that reveal areas that still need adjustment or growth, definition, and that embracing these moments with patience and curiosity accelerates the evolution of your mind and character. The author encourages exercises such as visualization, affirmations, deliberate action, and consistent focus on empowering thoughts, because repetition strengthens new neural pathways and gradually replaces outdated mental patterns that no longer serve your goals. The narrator emphasizes that transformation is cumulative. Small, consistent improvements compound over time, creating profound and lasting change that feels effortless once the new patterns are fully integrated. As Chapter 14 comes to a close, you are left with a powerful insight. True transformation begins within, with the conscious cultivation of empowering thoughts, and once your mind begins to change, your external world inevitably shifts to reflect that inner evolution. And so, this chapter leaves you with the realization that by consciously choosing, nurturing, and directing your thoughts, you are not only capable of change, you are the architect of your own transformation, shaping your life moment by moment, thought by thought, the version of yourself you aspire to become. Chapter 15 brings together the core message of the entire journey by reminding you that the life you desire, whether defined by success, peace, growth, fulfillment, ultimately springs from the consistent, intentional, and disciplined shaping of your thoughts. Because everything you experience in your outer world is first created in your inner world, and the final chapter teaches you to take full responsibility for this truth, recognizing that you are not merely influenced by your thoughts but actively empowered to choose, direct, and transform them. In this chapter, you are invited to acknowledge that becoming the best version of yourself is not a matter of luck, circumstance, or talent, but a conscious practice of nurturing a mindset that aligns with your highest goals and deepest values, understanding that every belief you hold, every emotion you feel, and every action you take is rooted in the quality of your thinking. The author explains that mastering your thoughts is a lifelong process, requiring awareness, patience, and commitment, but it is also the most rewarding journey you can embark upon. Because once you learn to guide your inner world, your outer world naturally follows, opening doors to opportunities, relationships, and experiences that once seemed distant or impossible. You are encouraged to reflect on the principles covered throughout the book. Focus, belief, self-talk, imagination, purpose, intention, discipline, gratitude, resilience, and transformation, and recognize how each one contributes to shaping a powerful, aligned, purpose-driven mind capable of creating extraordinary results. This chapter emphasizes that thinking positively is not enough. You must think consciously, deliberately, and consistently in ways that support your goals, rejecting thoughts that limit you and strengthening thoughts that empower you, because the mind, like a muscle, grows stronger with repetition and training. The narrator reminds you that challenges will continue to arise throughout life. But the difference now is that you are equipped with the mental tools to navigate them with clarity, confidence, and resilience, understanding that obstacles are not signs of defeat but opportunities to strengthen your character and refine your thinking. Chapter 15 also highlights the importance of surrounding yourself with supportive environments, people, habits, routines, and influences that reinforce the mindset you are developing. Because your thoughts are shaped not only by your inner choices, but also by the external world you expose yourself to daily. Your full attention, you are urged to keep learning, growing, and evolving, realizing that the journey of becoming what you think does not end with understanding these principles, continues through daily practice, reflection, and self-awareness, ensuring that your thoughts remain aligned with your truest self. As the final chapter draws to a close, you are reminded of a powerful truth: your thoughts are not random, insignificant, or uncontrollable. They are the creative force behind your reality, the blueprint of your future, and the foundation of your destiny. Chapter 15 leaves you with an empowering message: you have the ability, the responsibility, and the privilege to shape your life by shaping your mind. When you choose your thoughts wisely, consistently, and intentionally, you unlock the highest expression of your potential and step confidently into a life of purpose, fulfillment, growth, and limitless possibility, because in the end, you truly become what you think.